Gentlemen,
Hey.
good evening.
Owen.
How are
I
you?
am joined by Tommy Hangman Smith, M, and Randy from Back Sports Page with an AEW All Out post show. But first, let's get the show started. Why don't we?
Agility from the champion. Oh, deep six! That could be it. Delivers this deep six.
I'm joined by Tommy, M, and Randy with the special Sunday night edition of the Deep Six Pro Wrestling podcast, bringing you last night's AEW All Out pay-per-view review show. We had a pretty decent show on our hands. Held my attention. Had some highs and we had some lows, which we will talk about. But first, Tommy, M, Randy, how you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Glad to be on the show.
Hey, I finally got home, so you guys should have started at, 9:30? I kind of pushed you guys back by an hour. My fault. I had a long drive.
All good here. Let's do it. AEW All Out.
So a pretty decent pay-per-view. I wouldn't say it exceeded my expectations. I was actually probably looking for a little bit more to be happening last night. Still a pretty decent show. Could have been a little shorter. 4 hours, a little too long. This isn't WrestleMania. It's not SummerSlam. It's not your biggest pay-per-view of the year. That got to be cut down to 3 hours. A little bit of a long show. Thankfully, I was wide awake for it, and it held my attention. But Tommy, what did you think of the show before we start doing the rundown?
Yeah, I didn't get to catch it until today, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, like you said, there's a lot of matches that held my attention. I thought there was some matches that were really, really good that I'm sure I'll get to comment on. There's a few matches that didn't, go the way I was hoping or expected. Especially one 8-man tag that I'm sure we'll get to. But overall, I thought it was a good show. I agree with you. It seemed really long for, how many matches were on the card. But overall, I thought it was a good show.
How about you, Em?
I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't their best showing, but it wasn't by far. It wasn't their worst. I think they were just trying to make up for the time that they were away, give us as much wrestling action as possible. But I had no problem with it. I mean, it was a little predictable, but other than that, it was good action. It was hard hitting. And we'll dive deeper into it soon.
Randy, how did you like the show?
Solid show. I thought the stuff that the parts of the show we knew that were going to be intriguing and sort of compelling in certain different situations, I thought delivered. The stuff that was sort of filler and gaga, you thought it was there, which was fine. Like, we'll definitely dive into Cassidy and Jericho when we talk about the gaga aspect of it. But the things that needed to deliver, I thought delivered. As we go along, for me, there's a writing theme, and I mentioned it to Em earlier today via messenger. It's just something about continuity with storytelling as a whole with AEW that seems to be like little holes here and there. But I guess we'll talk about that as we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, pretty decent show. And I would say year over year compared to last year's All Out, an improved show. I think I may personally raise the bar too high on this show, but still a decent pay-per-view, which we're going to get into. But we're going to talk about our first match. We're going to dive right in. Talking Britt Baker versus Swole in the tooth and nail match, which took place in what appeared to be Dr. Britt Baker's dentist office. Wasn't really quite the cinematic quality that we've seen in other promotions. So I wouldn't say it was cinematic, but pretty entertainment. Little hokey. But Tommy, what did you think of this match?
Yeah, to start the show off, I mean, we had heard from Tony Khan in his press conference that this match was going to be on the pre-show. There's a lot of fan backlash, and this match got pushed to the main card, and it actually led the show off. I didn't mind it. You know, as you mentioned, we've seen a lot of cinematic matches here with the whole COVID-19. You know, it's kind of changed a lot of plans. I thought there was some creative things. I really did enjoy the finish of the match with the anesthesia. I thought that was, you know, a good way to end the match. Some of the stuff didn't really hit for me. I did understand Big Swole punching through the diploma. It kind of seemed like that would hurt her more than, you know, what actually went through. But overall, you know, for the time that they were given, I thought it was a decent match. I hope we get to see some more of this. I don't know if this is the end of their feud, if they'll continue. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good match to start off the show.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like it was fun, and Wayne, this does count as cinematic because it was a cinematic match. There's no doubt about it. But it was less hokey than what we're used to. It's still a bit hokey, but I understand it. Again, I don't think that Britt Baker's 100%. So knowing that, I was like, cool, just get it done. Make it fun, you know. Like Big Swole brings a lot of energy to the matches that she's involved in, and I think her and Britt, they have chemistry. And then Britt's screaming, "Reba, Reba!" She's not even in the room; she's screaming for her. You know, like I had fun with this. I didn't get to see it last night; it took me a little bit, so I had to catch up today on this one. But dude, I enjoyed it. It is what it is. It was just just get the match over with. Now we have one in the bank, I would say, and they can move on. So I was all for it.
We just said the word gaga before, and I think this definitely fills in the word gaga a little bit. I like there's little things in here. Again, I'm nitpicking, and that's okay. That's what I do. I overanalyze things. But it's funny, like the minute Swole walks into the dental office and just sees Reba there, Reba looks actually like surprised that Swole's walking into the office. It's like we haven't planned this whole entire thing. We know that there's a match going on there. It's like those little nuanced things that they have to improve on. But like I had no issues with, again, cinematic match. This is the part of entertainment with pro wrestling that we talk about, and making things different, making things interesting. My only complaint with this match was not what it was and how they did it or anything else like that. It was more placement on the show. I didn't feel of a big opening of a show like this is supposed to be a really big show. Then the first thing you do is keep the limited live audience and the audience that wants to see something different. This should have been first. I think the next match we talk about should have been the opening match and then gone to this cinematic match second.
Yeah, Randy, you're exactly right. I would think that Britt Baker and versus Swole could have been like a breather match somewhere in between one of the matches in the card, for sure.
Yeah, and the only other thing with that too is, again, I understand Britt is so limited still because she's still recovering. I remember months ago she kept on saying she wanted to be ready for All Out. And like Tony said during his press conference earlier in the week, this is his way of keeping her involved and keeping her as a focal point of the women's division against Swole, so she didn't have to be in the ring working on her leg. They were able to work around that doing this type of cinematic match.
Yeah, so with the limitations that they had, it's like I can't really nitpick it too much.
No.
Yeah, so
I'm nitpicking.
I know you said it, but like me personally, I can't nitpick it too much because, like I said, it was more the energy and what they brought to the performances that I was looking at, and like I know. Listen, you drop how heavy is Nyla Rose? You drop a big woman on somebody's knee, they're not going to be ready right off the bat. So it's like I get it. This is what it is, and the placement was a little weird. But honestly, I didn't mind it. Maybe because I missed it in the beginning. But, I got to see it today, so I'm happy with the result. It was fun. I watched it with a couple of friends, and they had a laugh. And they're not big wrestling fans, so it was good to include, like non-fans. Maybe that brings people in,
And Britt Baker looked pretty good. I don't know if you guys noticed, she was running a little bit.
Yeah.
She even dropped the DDT. So right off the bat, we could tell she's coming along. I would figure maybe about another month or so, at minimum, 4 to 8 weeks before we see her in a match. I would say it's fair to say at this point. So moving on, we had the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express, and I totally agree with Randy. They should have stuck with the format. Start with a hot tag team title match. That's been what's been working every single Wednesday night. They come in hot with the tag title match. They should have probably started with this match right here. But we see a little bit of an edge here with the Young Bucks. Matt Jackson slapping Jungle Boy in an attempt to shake hands. So Matt Jackson wasn't having any of that. Young Bucks win with the BTE trigger. Luchasaurus already knocked out on the outside. Young Bucks took advantage after 2 super kicks. The BTE trigger gets the win. Pretty good action here. Tommy, what did you think of this match?
I agree with you guys. I was sitting here watching this match this morning, and I was just blown away. I've read a few, people's reactions, and not a lot of people, or not a lot, a mixed reviews from a lot of people, but I love this match. Me and Randy talked about it earlier today. This match was high flying and fast moving. You talk about a hot tag team match. I mean, this match had it all. I mean, Luchasaurus doing dives, Jungle Boy, doing his normal fast-paced offense. We, of course, saw the Young Bucks. I like that they brought in a new kind of mean streak. We saw them go after Marco Stunt and kick his crutch away. I like that. I thought this match was excellent. There's a few matches on the card, one that we'll talk about later, that I thought was maybe just a little better, but we say AEW's kind of found their niche in starting with a tag team match, and this one was definitely one that I really personally enjoyed. The amount of the false finishes, the kickouts, everything that was involved in this match, I really thoroughly enjoyed. So hats off to those 4. I think they really did a great job in the ring, and this match was one of my favorites on the card.
I think I'm getting spoiled because I expect this, it's like this. So the match was exactly what I expected it to be. So I wasn't really blown away because I see this weekly from AEW. But you guys are right. It should have been the first match because it would have set the tone for the rest of the pay-per-view. But do I have a lot to say? I think that I think we might see a more Bullet Club type edge from the Elite right now, especially, and we'll get into that later on, but that's what it looks like they're leaning towards, where they're tweeners. They're not going to be the nice hokey guys anymore, and you know what? I applaud that. I don't want to see the Young Bucks be this kissing babies type, like good guys. I honestly hate that vanilla face. It's like I want to see some conflict within you, and definitely they showed that. And there's nothing I can say right now that hasn't been said week in, week out on this show about this tag match. I mean, this is exactly what it is. It was high flying, like you said, and high impact, and it had storytelling, which is very important that we don't see that a lot in wrestling. So it has you after the match thinking about it. It's like, which way are they going to go? Are they finally going to turn heel? Are they going to continue being face but with an edge? That there's all these questions. They even, I think it was Matt Jackson. He super kicked Marco Stunt at some point, right? So it's like
kicked out the crutch.
Yeah, no, he super kicked him. It
was a very, very heel move.
Yeah, so. Come on, this is exactly what it was supposed to be, and it's to get us to sit there and wonder and discuss. And we're not going to find anything out until Wednesday, and that's great. This is the type of stuff that I love about pro wrestling, and they're doing it right, thankfully.
One of the things that I was worried about with this match was actually how Luchasaurus was actually going to mesh with the Bucks, because, again, when you have a big man and his style going against a very quick, agile team that the Bucks are, I really do think that there's always that possibility of contrast in styles. Now, what I did like about the match, obviously, I like the edgier Young Bucks, as M would like to say, the heelish Bullet Club Bucks. I like that mentality a little bit more. But I got to tell you the one thing with the AEW tag team division, just like they had during the buy-in show with Private Party and the Dark Order, is they do have a lot of teams that get lost in the shuffle. And for some weird way, we don't understand how the rankings are going from 1 week somebody is the number one ranked tag team, and all of a sudden the Dark Order was the number one ranked tag team, and somehow QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes get a tag team title match. I don't fully understand their ranking system. I guess maybe if you win like 12 straight matches on Dark, you get a title match against jobbers, but that's okay. But the simple fact of the matter is, this match was a great business card that if you've never watched AEW before, the type of action you can expect, and as a wrestling fan that you probably want to see compared to other organizations you see on national television. Now, again, should have been the opener. I think it sets a great pace, which in some of the other matches was hard to follow. But my only thing is eventually, like we've been talking about, and I think it's going to happen again once we get past the 15% capacity, when we start getting more people in the stands, Jungle Boy needs to get that win. At some point or another, he needs to get a win. This obviously was not the case, especially with the Bucks having a little bit more of a heelish streak to them. It was not the time for the Jurassic Express to get this win, but I still say Jungle Boy needs that win at some point.
No, I totally agree. But the thing is, and that's what I think one of my complaints about with the show is the predictability of it. It's like, okay, Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks. Honestly, does anybody sit there and think that the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus were going to get that victory? No, not one of us.
Sorry.
Oh, did you raise your hand? Yeah, I don't believe that for a minute.
I was the guy. I was the one guy.
Specifically said on our last show that he wouldn't be surprised that Jungle Express gets the Jurassic Express gets the win. And yeah, I mean Jurassic Express needed the win back.
But that's the thing, is that it would be surprising, but they haven't surprised us like that in a while. Everything lately has felt by the numbers. This guy's gonna win. We see it from a mile away. That guy's going to win. This team is going to win. There's no way the other guy's going to win. And I think that's one of the problems. You got to start building up these other tag teams. They have to start getting these unexpected wins, pull them off. You got to get them up there, because I want to believe that the Jurassic Express has a chance, because then I'm more invested into the match emotionally. I can't get 100% into a match if I know the outcome right off the bat. And I think that's where they need to work on it a little bit. And it's not a knock on them personally. I think the wrestling industry is like that now. You look at a match, you go, yeah, you can sit there and pick all the winners, and 95% of the time you're right. Once in a blue, like really rare, you'll get a swerve. But we should see a swerve a little more often, because it'll keep us on our toes.
Yeah, for sure.
I would have gone to Vegas. Go to Vegas if we can pick them all right all the time, baby.
But I think, the thing is like I said, I was really invested in this match. I thought there was a lot of really good false finishes. But as Em said, we all kind of knew that the Young Bucks were going to win the match. As much as Jungle Boy kept kicking out and kept fighting and kept taking, another, I think he took a few BTE triggers. He took some super kicks and he kept kicking out. But we knew at some point the Young Bucks were going to win. There's a reason that they headed the company, with Cody and with the rest of the Elite. And that's not a problem. I don't have a problem with Young Bucks winning. But like you said, at a point, these other tag teams, they have riches of tag teams. They have so many tag teams that have so much talent and can bring a lot to the table. But because, we're still kind of trying to figure out, it's a young company. They're still trying to figure out who they want to lead the charge. Hopefully at that point, like you said, we get some surprises. We get some victories for these guys. Because, guys like Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, they put on a match. And they can go in the ring and they can really surprise a lot of people. So hopefully, we get to the point where teams like them and teams like Private Party can get some of these big wins down the line.
Definitely.
And speaking of predictability, I want to segue into the 21-man battle royal. So we noticed on Dynamite that the booking, I think we could all pat ourselves on the back just about.
No, I can't. I picked Brian Cage, remember?
The
I picked
booking, yeah, the booking was kind of the booking was kind of booked around a couple guys. We didn't even know all 21 guys who were going to be in there. We didn't know who the surprise guy was going to be, obviously. And quite frankly, I would have done a better job on advertising this surprise guy. But that's I digress on that. But they featured Brian Cage, Darby Allin, Archer, Eddie Kingston, and a couple of his guys. So basically, that was the focal point going into All Out regarding this 21-man Battle Royal Casino Royale match. Archer gets the win. He's your number one contender. So that was pretty transparent that they were going to go that route. A couple guys were featured pretty well here. Will Hobbs shined a little bit. He kind of came off as a jobber about 2 weeks ago, but he had a couple good minutes here. Brian Cage, Darby Allin, all featured well. There's a lot we can talk about. Darby Allin taking that bump to the outside in a coffin bag. That was a nice little. I popped for that. I was hoping Darby Allin would be okay. There were bigger bumps than that in the night, which we will talk about. But Archer, your new number one contender. Tommy, I wanted to ask you: is it a little too late to make him the number one contender? Do you think that maybe they should have? Because I feel like with Archer, there was kind of a long pause there. He was so hot, then he got cold, and now maybe it seems like it's a little pushed. Although the rankings are justifiable, last I checked, he's 13-1. So, Tommy, how do you feel about Archer as number one contender? We kind of saw it coming based on Dynamite, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think he brings a different kind of big man style to the ring. I think he can move pretty well for his size. As you mentioned, it's weird because he was featured well, and then he got into the match with Cody. He ends up losing that match, and then it seems like he was just fighting on Dark. And as we've talked multiple times on the show, Dark is just it's not something that people look forward to. It's a lot of just filler matches, a lot of stuff, and then we just see him, and he comes in and he's throwing people through the ceiling, and he's getting this mini push and all that stuff. And now he's winning. And the only problem that I had with him winning was it seemed like with Archer, his win kind of predicted what was going to happen in the main event. Because I could never see an Archer versus MJF heel versus heel match. It just didn't make sense to me. So having Moxley and having Archer, I think that's a good balance. I think it'll be an interesting match. I just don't know if, somebody's going to take the title off Moxley down the line. I don't think it's going to be Archer. I don't have a problem with him being the number one contender. I think Brian Cage would have been a bit of a better choice just because of the history. I also, as my fanboy of Darby Allin, I think he could have been a great choice. But man, that spot that he took, this show was brutal for a lot of the spots that went on. I mean, even in the Britt Baker and the Swole match with the needle, I'm not a big fan of needles, so that kind of got me a little bit. I mean, this show overall was just absolutely brutal. And that spot, I mean, dumping the thumbtacks in the body bag and then throwing him out to the ramp. I mean, great moment.
It was a stunt double.
It was a different guy completely. It was Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, and Randy, you too. When do you think Archer should get this number one contender match? Do you at this point put it onto the next pay-per-view and just give it time to build Archer for the next 2 months? I think this is really what they need to do here. Otherwise, I would have probably maybe chosen Brian Cage in a return match, and then if you want to get Archer in the main event, build him up for a little while, and then get him into a number one contender. What do you think, Em?
I'm gonna go the unpopular route and say no. He should get it at Dynamite, and then whoever challenges him should be a more viable challenge. Somebody who we won't be able to predict this. Like just like Tommy said, we don't see Archer taking that title. I want to see a match where there's danger. You know, like when Moxley fought Jericho, you didn't know what was going to happen. You sat there. It's like, well, he can keep the title, or maybe Moxley can beat him for the title. I haven't felt like that with any of the of Moxley's challengers. So I think, you know what? Gave him the number one contendership. Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. Let him take the fall on Dynamite, and then let's get a new one before the pay-per-view and build to that. And you can even build to that and have the match midway between that. There has to be a way. I'm not 100% sure how they can get there, but I don't like having Archer as the number one contender because, again, it's predictable. I don't like watching what I already know is going to happen. You know, I feel great after I say, hey, this guy's going to lose, and then I pat myself on the back. Exactly, and I will sit here and I will call myself Nostradamus, but honestly, it's not that hard to see. You know, it's like it's blatant, and the fact is that sometimes pro wrestling can be a little insulting to your intelligence, and that's yes. A hard fact. I don't need that spoon feeding, and I thought I wouldn't get it as much here in AEW as in any other company. The fact of the matter is that that's exactly what happened. You tipped your hand way too early. You said, hey, it's going to be Archer and Brian Cage. These are the guys to watch in this battle royal. And we all picked. And I think like 50% of us picked right. So that's not good. Come on, man. I should watch a battle royal and not know anybody. Oh, I have no clue. Like I should walk in with no expectations and truly be surprised by the number one contender.
Look, I'm gonna rip this to shreds.
Of course you are.
I'm gonna rip this whole thing to shreds. You ready? The first thing was I didn't like when it was supposed to be the casino battle royal. They were using the model you did on the first Double or Nothing. I don't like tag team partners coming out together. I didn't like that. Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
Hey, listen, it was random. That's how the cards were drawn.
Yeah, sure.
Like a pair of twos, a pair of fours. Sometimes numbers come out the same.
Yeah,
Devil's advocate.
You play that way too often.
I don't. No. So
the heel.
Going, I think basically. Thanks, Mr. Cornette. I love that. Listen, the other part of it too is I got a kick out of watching Jake the Snake Roberts hit somebody with a bag that's supposed to have a snake in it. You could tell didn't have a snake in it, which was that to me, which was brilliant. Okay,
hey, listen, the snake took some bumps. To get on the card.
That's a gimmick bag that we got that from boxofgimmicks.com. You can order that at your own pace. And here's the other thing too. Like, look, we're talking about it. Yeah, Archer has lost steam, but besides fighting Cody and fighting Dustin Rhodes in the tournament for the TNT title, he fought Joey Janela. Then everybody else is on dark. Mm-hmm. All right. So my thing is, I'd rather see you build him up to full gear. Make him the unbeatable monster where Moxley has to dig down deep to beat him. So make it compelling. The little man versus the giant storyline is an old storyline, but it still seems to work. Shawn Michaels made it work for all those years.
Whoa.
No.
Comparing?
No, I'm not. Okay,
all right. Moxley and Shawn Michaels, the same person.
Okay. I was going to say Bret Hart, but that's not fair.
Shawn Moxley.
You know what? I'm just saying in general, you want to make sure that it looks like a very difficult challenge for the champion. And that's where I sort of had that problem with MJF too, because we talked about predictability. We'll get there, but you want to be, and not only that, but Excalibur sort of spoiled it before the Battle Royal even started too. He made a comment. So overall, like I said, I had no problem with the participants in the battle royal. I had a hard time with the order that they came in. I think things could have been executed better, with the exception of Darby Allin being thrown as a dart. It just feels like he's a crash test dummy for this organization. And I think at the end of the day, Tony Khan and the rest of the crew over at AEW have to look at match placement again. I almost think this too could have been an opening match on the card and or gone to the buy-in, because I understand it's a way of getting everybody onto the show, but because of timing issues, you didn't want to cut other things. And I felt like later on the show, there was a few other things that were pressed for time and ended up going really over instead of it being a well-paced show. And I think this match was one of the problems because of it.
I don't think this match was a problem when it's time-wise. I think that might have been the Matt Hardy match that kind of threw everything.
That's a whole other issue.
Exactly. If we want to point at timing issues, I'm pretty sure that was the.
And we're not actually talking about time. Yeah. We're talking about where people landed.
Man. Good thing that match is next.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, great segue.
No, we need to talk about one more. We need to talk about one more thing, and I can't believe you guys didn't bring this up. But how about that spot by Matt Seidel?
Well, I didn't want to bring it up because
I felt bad.
I thought I'd bring it up. I mean, it was that was the elephant in the room of that match.
Can I tell you though? But that also goes back to one thing that we were talking.
I'm glad he's
about.
all right though.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, he's scary. Yeah, look, scary things with guys like that who are able to try to perform moves like that. But this also is one other complaint. I'm sorry for not bringing this up during my rant just a couple seconds ago. It's also when you're bringing guys in, you want them to have an impact. And again, and no pun intended, since Seidel's been on Impact. But at the same time, when Cage came in, he won the match. When Archer came in, he made his presence felt with Jake the Snake and Cody. Seidel is a guy who you can do things with if he's not even trying to get guys over, but also trying to build other guys. Having him come in this type of situation sort of didn't really work in his favor. I thought he could have been presented, there's that word, presented a little bit better and not in a situation like this.
See, I didn't mind that they brought him in because, again, this... I'm going to give them credit. Did we switch places, Randy? No, Wayne switched us. That's what it was. Normally, I'm the miserable misanthrope here. You've taken my shtick. I don't like
it's being. I'm being real at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Okay, brother.
Yeah, that's my job. All right. I don't go sports casting over there. Do I? Anyway, but I digress. I didn't mind having him come in because, again, he was a surprise, but they didn't use him exactly how every other surprise was used. So I have no problem. If you start bringing every surprise in and he wins and makes this giant impact.
I'm not saying he had to win.
No, but I'm saying you did not listen. I said giant impact as well. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it'll get stale quickly. So you know what? You got to have these undercard guys come in as a surprise here and there. I popped a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh my God. It's like at first I didn't even realize it was him. I had asked Wayne. I was like, wait, who'd they say? So I was happy. I was like, cool. I mean, the only thing that really took me out was the moment that he left the top turnbuckle and almost killed himself. I was like, oh my God, did he just kill himself?
That was
yeah.
Cool.
We all
he just cleared that landing.
Yeah, that's all we cared about at that moment. Hey,
he knew that he messed up.
Yeah, and listen, if you want to stretch, that was a huge impact. All right, because it all had us gasping and wondering if he was okay. Thankfully, he was, but. Honestly, I didn't have an issue with this.
Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in our next match. This had to have been one of the underwhelming matches of the night for me. But throughout the midst of that underwhelming match, we saw a very dangerous spot. We see Matt Hardy take a dangerous bump. Matt got... he was all the way up on top of the what do we call it? The lift. Okay, we'll go with that. The lift.
Yeah, it was
him and Sammy Guevara were up on a lift, and they're on top. And then we see Sammy Guevara sort of spear Matt Hardy. So it looked like they were about maybe 10 feet in the air, which is enough. Spear Matt Hardy off of the lift onto the table. It looked like mostly they missed a table. Let's just say that Matt Hardy was supposed to go through 2 tables. He went through 1. Matt Hardy unfortunately caught the last table with his bottom half of the body. So from his waist up, his head flat out hit the cement ground. So we see a stoppage in the match. We see Sammy Guevara go off into the arena, gets away, and then we see Matt Hardy. You can see the look in his eyes. You knew he was in another planet. He was not on planet Earth at the moment, for sure. When we looked in his eyes on TV, we see Matt Hardy get up, try to make a match out of it. Finally gets into the arena. They recalled the match. We could talk about our opinions on that in a second. But we see Sammy Guevara. They finally get to the finish. So they obviously skipped a bunch of stuff. Sammy Guevara climbing up the scaffold. Matt Hardy follows him, pushes him off. Sammy Guevara lands on the ground. And then Matt Hardy gets the win right there. But Tommy, do you think that they should have kept this match going? What do you think?
No. And me and Randy talked about this earlier.
Looking in his eyes, he was a little jacked up.
I have dealt with a few concussions in my lifetime, and I know what it's like to be in that moment to where you just don't know what is going on. You know, they've always said, you know, when they throw up the X, it's over. And I get it. I get that they cleared him. I get that there was a doctor there that said, okay, he can keep going. But at that point, you got to stop the match. You can't risk any further injury, especially with the spot that they ended with him climbing up the scaffolding. If he climbs up that and falls because of his head injury, the PR, not only just him, you know, suffering even worse injuries, the PR damage that they do for the company. I mean, it for me, it completely took me out of the pay-per-view for a little bit because I was thinking, like, why are they keep going with this? Like, I understand that they need to get to the finish of the match and they want to end this rivalry, or if they continue it, you know, however they choose to do it. But at that point, you know, it's a somber moment. We understand stuff happens in wrestling. You don't hit every spot. And that is a tough spot to hit. You're going through 2 tables from what looked like about a 15-foot drop in a spear. I mean, it's a tough spot to hit, but at that point, I don't understand why they didn't stop the match. I'm glad that when they did continue it, it was quick. They finished it. They got to the point. But, you know, like we mentioned earlier, this match, for what I was going into thinking it was going to be, I was looking forward to it. I thought this was going to be a really good one. I thought this had a chance to be something that, you know, could not steal the show, but definitely would be one of the more enjoyable matches on the show. And, you know, like I said, it just completely took me out of the pay-per-view for a minute because I was so worried about, okay, what happened to Matt Hardy? Why did they continue this? You know, and I wanted to understand what Tony Khan was thinking. I get it. I understand where he was coming from. But at the end of the day, something with as serious as we know, you know, head injuries are, especially with the studies that the NFL does and all that stuff, you know, you just can't keep going with that match.
Yeah, that was definitely scary, dude. It's like I had, because you know me, I'm a huge Sammy Guevara guy. We all are here, so I'm looking forward to this match. And it was so unfortunate that injury happened. So, it was like the beginning of the match. So it's gone. The whole match is gone. So, what I found weird was that they restarted it. You're 100% correct, man.
They really wanted to get that finish in.
I think it was the stipulation that forced their hand. The whole fact that if Matt Hardy loses, he's got to leave the company. I'm sure Matt fought like hell to get back in there. So I wouldn't envy being Tony Khan in that moment where it's like, all right, do you just sacrifice the storyline, or do you sacrifice your wrestler? So, and especially with the wrestler there asking to get back in, he passed the concussion protocol. it's unfortunate. I don't agree with what they did, but I honestly, I don't know if I could have done anything differently if I was in that situation. Would I have called off the match, especially with the wrestler sitting there saying, "Hey, listen, it was momentarily, I was dazed. I'm good. Let me go back out there." I don't know. I don't know if I could have called it off, honestly.
Look, at the end of the day, again, safety is important. I'm joking around about this a little bit just because it's so crazy that it got pushed to that route. But you know what? Matt Hardy has taken a lot of hits, a lot of bumps over the years. I think that Sammy Guevara being put in this spot too, it's a tough thing. Like you said, how much do you sacrifice story for the wrestler and vice versa? And I got to agree with Tommy a little bit too. I think this sort of hurt the show because you didn't know where you were going, especially with an injury. You didn't know how serious it was. If you remember correctly, Sammy has been the victim of a lot of bumps, especially during the Stadium Stampede. At the end of the day, I hope this is the end of this. I love Matt Hardy. I think he's probably one of the more creative guys in pro wrestling. But I think now his in-ring days are
winding down,
more behind him than they are in front of him. Let's put it that way. So I think he was trying to make a good last impression, and this would have been a hell of a last impression if that's how it would have ended. But you know what though? He's living the fight another day, both storyline wise and his body. I just think it's time maybe we do something else, and hopefully Sammy goes on to something that's a little bit better and it's going to help get him over, because this one didn't help. And this is not any, like, unlike the chair shot a couple of weeks ago where Matt Hardy was busted open. This one wasn't Sammy's fault. This was just mistimed move. And M said a lot about the pressure that Tony Khan would have to take, and with concussion protocols and the negative feedback if something would happen to a wrestler. Again, they just, I think they just did it in the moment, on the move. Let's just see if he's past concussion protocol, he wants to continue out there, let him just finish it. But it did have an effect on the match. I don't know about you guys. I showed Tommy at one time. I know I showed M, and I sent it over to Wayne this morning, and Wayne just said, "Oh God, I don't even want to read it," like because he didn't like the review. But I read Scott Keith and Scott's blog of Doom. He's written many wrestling books. I have the same feeling as wrestling that he does. And even he said, look, they did the best they can. And especially with Matt not having all of his faculties, they did the best they can, but I have a feeling they'll probably give these guys one more shot. But there's got to be a point where once that X goes up, you have to stop.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like I said, it was very hard.
Yeah. It was tough to watch. It was tough to watch, and especially I also there's also that piece of me that sort of felt bad for Matt, not just because it was wrestling factor, but I felt like this guy. We've seen how many years of him taking bad ladder match hits and everything else like that. When is enough for this guy?
Well, that's the thing, is that the broken character was basically made so he didn't have to have these matches, and then he kind of put the broken character away because there were no people in the stands, and it doesn't work without the people in the stands, he was saying. So hopefully now that we're getting the fans back in the stadium, he can bring it back and not do these insane type of matches. Listen, I like Matt Hardy. I don't want to see him in these matches, man. I don't want to see him get hurt. I know he's up there in age. And like you said, I mean, his days are winding down. He knows it. We know it. We don't need to see any insane spots with him, honestly. We really don't. So I hope that this is one of the last ones. I want to see good wrestling out of him. I don't need to see that insane, stunt anymore. I don't need to see him up on ladders or anything. The extreme stuff, you're a different wrestler now. Just stick to it. You're a character. Do what you got to do. Stay as long as you can. Stay healthy, and just leave that extreme stuff. Listen, we saw it. We appreciate it. We will never forget it. That's 100% true. We will never forget all the things that Matt Hardy has done. I don't need to see him do it again at this stage in his career.
Yeah, you know what, Em, you're right. They need to leave it to the young guys, such as your Darby Allens, your Sammy Guevaras, your Kip Sabians. Those are the guys that are the ones, if anything, should take the high risk. Matt Hardy, clearly paid the price yesterday for going out of his realm. He's getting a little too old for doing these type of matches. If he wants to wrestle, fine. But as far as these bumps go, no more. He can't be doing that. And they should have stopped the match. And I would have been perfectly fine with that because the way that happened, even though it was an accident, listen, if I'm landing 15 feet on cement, that's a realistic finish. I'm done, and that's it. And that would have been an understandable finish, both as far as storyline and, of course, real life. But that would have made perfect sense to end it there. But moving on, we saw some pretty good wrestling. Getting back to a good wrestling matches, Matt Hardy versus Sammy wasn't that great, and as to be expected after that bump he took. But we got the AEW Women's title match between Shida versus Thunder Rosa in quite possibly, arguably, one of the best matches of the night. Great match. Shida gets the win. What a women's match you saw. We saw some false finishes. I think I would have liked to have seen about maybe 5 or 10 more minutes out of this, because I thought that every 15 minutes of that match, every minute of that match, we saw a good match there. Shida wins with the knee strike. Tommy, what'd you think? Shida retains. Right move?
Yes, I do. I thought going into it that maybe we could see Thunder Rosa take it. We talked about Tony Khan's relationship with Billy Corgan in the NWA. Overall, we had built up the fact that Thunder Rosa was amazing in the ring. I haven't seen as much of her as I wanted to, but going into this match, I had seen a little bit, and she definitely delivered. I mean, the Michinoku driver that she took, and she kicks out at 1. I mean, what a great spot. What a fantastic, kind of like
made her look strong right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. What a great move. I think Shida hit a Meteor. That was really good too. Overall, I mean, this was a fantastic match. For them to have such a down moment with the Hardy and Guevara match, and then to come back with this match and to kind of bring the crowd back in and have everybody be like, man, what, women's wrestling has definitely improved since, 2015, 2014. And this is one of the reasons why. I mean, these two just absolutely stole the show. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I thought it was great. Hopefully we get to see more of Thunder Rosa here again.
Dude, I have been saying that Thunder Rosa should have been in AEW from the start. I believe she was unsigned when AEW started, and I was sitting there and I was asking people, yo, you think she'll sign? You think she'll sign? And she signed with NWA, and you know how heartbroken I was? That I was heartbroken, just like when Marty Scurll re-signed with ROH. That's how big of a fan of Thunder Rosa I am. I know that she can wrestle. She's a wrestler. All right. She's not learning to wrestle. She's not learning to be in front of people. She is the total package. She is a woman who can wrestle and fight. So it was a no-brainer to get her, and somehow they let her slip through their hands. I don't know how you do that, but hey, you did it. So now you make an agreement with Billy Corgan to get her in, and I thought that was brilliant. Was she ever going to win that title? Not a stone throws chance in hell. I thought that she was going to win it, but it was an amazing match, a hard-hitting match, and Rosa looked strong, and that's how you present a champion. And they were both champions going in, and they both left champions, and they looked amazing. And I hope to see another match of this caliber in the women's division again, hopefully sometime soon, because that's the one weakness that AEW has, is the women's division. You need more wrestlers like this. All right. Absolutely. No knock on the other girls, but Rosa is on another level. Really, she should have been signed. And if somehow Tony Khan can pry her away from MWA, I would buy my T-shirt tomorrow. All right. So You could have $30 of my money, Tony. You just got to sign her, man.
You're like $2 million, you know? It's apples and oranges, man.
These girls were perfect tango partners, by the way.
No,
Yeah,
they really were.
Look, one of the things we've been very critical on this show about has been the AEW's women's division, and they actually came through with flying colors on this one. No problem with this. That they would have gave him more time. I still think it would have been good. And Thunder Rosa would be a welcome addition to this women's division. Sheeta, again, one of the biggest issues. The only issue I had with this match was because we knew she was on loan from NWA. We knew that she wasn't going to get the rub and the put over there. So that was my only complaint with it. But I still think it was a great match, and it was exactly what we needed at that point too. Because at that point, I think with this show, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I really do think they needed to have something that delivered, and there wasn't that, with the exception of the Young Buck match. This delivered.
Oh, absolutely. This was the one match that lived up to the hype. Perfect tango partners. They also, what I liked about it is they also gave her, the commentators told us a little more what Thunder Rosa is about. They had her kicking out at one. They made her look very strong. I want to say that this, I would have liked to have seen a couple more minutes, but I think this may have been the women's AEW match of the year so far. And I have to put Sheeta versus Penelope, but right now, Sheeta's clearly the ace of that women's division right now. And I think they had Thunder Rosa come in there just to kind of help come to the save of a lacking women's division of contenders. So good move on AEW's part. Gave us a good match, one of the best matches of the night. But moving on, we won't talk too much about this one. We'll hit up on it really quick, though. Dark Order versus Natural Nightmares. The writing was on the wall last week when Natural Nightmares got laid out by Dark Order that it looked like we were probably going to see a 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 match to some effect. I was thinking that maybe Cody would be involved, but apparently he's going to be out for a month or two making movies. Anyhow, Natural Nightmares get the win here. Brody had Dustin beat. Had him beat. And was here, hey, Cabana, take the win. Wanted Cabana to, go pin him, but Cole Cabana decides to go for that one extra move, and he missed off the top rope. I believe that was a backflip, if I'm not mistaken, and lost to, and the Dark Order took the loss because of that. That one extra move costed them. Brody was pissed at Cole Cabana, so I'm expecting to see a storyline continuation there going on to Dynamite. Moving on. Tag titles, Omega and Hangman versus FTR. This was the match we were all waiting for. FTR, they've been great. And then we get a match with arguably two of the best single wrestlers in the world, Omega and Hangman, defending their tag team championships. Tommy, what did you think of this match?
I'll take a drink for my man, Hangman. I am Tommy Hangman Smith. Man, this match was so long. I enjoyed it, but there are so many spots where I was just like, is this going to ever get to the finish? I enjoyed it overall. I really did. But there seemed to be so much downtime. It almost seemed like they were waiting for spots. They were coming. And I like FTR. I liked them when they were in the other company. But I always feel like their matches almost take the wind out of the sails for the show for me. Maybe that's just me. But it just seems like their matches just, and I get it. They're classic wrestling. They're a throwback to the Four Horsemen and all those old tag teams. But for me, it's just having them and having what they can bring to the table. I know that they can pick up their matches a little bit more. And it just seemed like this match just dragged in so many different spots. I think we all knew going in, FTR was not walking out of this without the titles. That was pretty obvious. We talked about how predictable wrestling is. This was one of those matches where it was obviously predictable, but man, for me, watching the show and looking at the time left on the show and thinking, okay, there's 3 or 4 matches left, and then realizing how long this match went, it wasn't as good as I was hoping it could have been. And I feel like with matches that have this much talent in it, sometimes those don't live up to the hype that they, bring to the table. And this one just wasn't what I was hoping for. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I thought there were some really good spots. I thought there was a lot of good heel work from both. And the ending, surprising. Honestly, I was expecting Hangman to turn, but having Kenny, walk out and basically giving the Young Bucks an ultimatum as he left in the car was an interesting thing. And I'm excited to see what they do on Dynamite.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma, what did you think? Maybe you could shed a little light on what Tommy just said about when Omega walked out with the Young Bucks.
Well, one of the things I wanted to highlight about what Tommy said, and I felt the same way, was the overhype of this match. I think that we expected it to be. I don't think they could have lived up to the type of hype that they set up for themselves. So basically, we knew what was going to happen, and I was going to get my day. I was going to get it one way or another, and I sure did. But the match itself, like I said, was kind of overhyped, and you had a lot of downtime, like Tommy says, and yeah, man, it was a really good match. And what do you think, Randy?
My only issue with this, and I agree with what Scott Keith had to say. One of the things about this finish, which was great, was there's still so many different ways they can go with this story. Can they go with the Elite? Is Kenny going to leave everybody and just do his own thing? Is Hangman? I honestly felt this, and I messaged it to Wayne this morning. And Tommy, I don't know if I said it to you, but I think that though they want to present it as Adam Page is the drunken idiot, and just like any person who has substance issues has to hit rock bottom, and this is Adam Page's rock bottom. He lost his friends, he got duped by his enemies, and it's just one of those things where it's so many different ways you can go. And I actually like that idea where Adam Page has the substance issue, so he hits rock bottom and he loses everything. So now he has to sort of clean up. Kenny can go so many different ways, but as far as the actual match is concerned, I actually agree with both of you. A lot of dead moments. It was still a great match, and I think it was FTR's crowning achievement. But for right now, this is validation for FTR, who's been saying for God knows how long, we're the best wrestling tag team out there. But I still feel, because of the Kenny and Hangman Page story, that FTR is not getting the credit it rightfully deserves in this situation. And they had a great match.
But Randy, that's one of the things I was telling you, I think, last week, and we also spoke about it.
Friday, you and I were going back and forth with this.
You were, because you wanted the Young Bucks to come out and interfere, and I said that would lessen the victory that you can't claim, because let's be honest, they have a legitimate claim to being one of the best tag teams out there. They cannot win their first titles in AEW by interference. It would have really diminished them in the fans' eyes. You gotta come out and say, hey, we're the best, and prove it. And you know what? I think this match, they proved it. Again, I don't think the match could have lived up to the hype that was set before it. But the storytelling is, I think, what we all were waiting for. We wanted to see the progression of Hangman Page's story along with Kenny Omega. And we got a taste of Omega, like, kind of just going, you know what? It's time to bring out the cleaner. You know, it's like he says it afterwards. He leaves Hangman. Hangman falls face first, and he lets him fall, man. And you're right. I think that they're gonna go, because that was one of my things that I was wondering, and I don't think I ever brought it up, was the fact that they were showing how Hangman was like a really cool alcoholic, but he's still an alcoholic. You know,
Yeah.
you have to show that other side of it where things go bad, and I think they're finally getting to that point. But I'm actually like really intrigued where he's going to end up. Like I said, it's Christmas for me. I'm getting it. But we also had the flip side where Omega kind of teased bringing back the cleaner, and he said it to the Young Bucks. We're gonna do it the way we used to do it, you know, and we're gonna start with a clean slate. Again, this was them spoon feeding us. I don't think we needed it, but for the fans that probably aren't hip to what they did in Japan, I think this was them spoon feeding them that hey, we're bringing back the cleaner, we're bringing back the Young Bucks, which I guess I can't have too much of a problem because we're gonna get a darker edge to them. And one of my main complaints, and I think Just Incredible hit on it, was that Kenny's very hokey. You know, and his hokiness works in Japan when he's a face, not so much here. So we need some darkness in him, and I think this was finally the breaking point where we're gonna see it just all out.
Right, but there's one thing too. But there's one thing too here you're also forgetting is that yes, Kenny went a little dark at the end there, and the Bucks last week too, getting all in Hangman Page's face. But in my eyes, FTR versus Page and Omega was not the end all be all match we want to see. We wanted to see FTR versus the Bucks with the title on the line, and that's where I felt that they were going with this. Do I think? I think the Bucks have done a very good job in the tag team division as far as not putting the titles on themselves. Being so it's not going to be elite heavy when with AEW starting over the last year. In fact, I think with the exception with Kenny and Page being the tag team champions, Cody being the TNT champion, and reality that wasn't even that long either. So I think they really are trying to make sure everybody's getting a fair shot here with the focus not being fully on the elite. But FTR versus the Bucks is really where the money's going to be. And listen, we didn't know how we were going to do it, but we had to get those belts off of Hangman and Kenny, and I think this was the right way of how we're doing it.
Definitely.
So is it clear to me now that I think it's fair to say it's a little bit of a clearer picture now that we're going to see Hangman probably go with the FTR and Omega stay with the Young Bucks? Maybe a 3-on-3 feud.
No,
you guys see a 3-on-3 match? You don't see that at all. It comes
not after this match. And I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I think Page
By himself, right?
Yeah, I think
do we see a return match? Do we see a return match of sorts? Hangman and an Omega on a return match in Dynamite, and then have a more of a solidified split there.
No, I think he's gonna go off on him soon.
No, I think there's again the transition.
How do you get there, though?
The transition from those types of situations from storyline to storyline. I think the FTR tag team matches with Page and Omega are done. I think now it's going to be Omega and Page and Omega. And Page with the Elite. That's where the story is going to be. I just hope they don't do anything hokey like they would on WWE with like an intervention or something like that. I just hope they don't do so. That would be a little too hokey for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that, but I'm excited because again, I didn't expect this, but it was in the back of my mind. You know, it's like, well, they're kind of glorifying drinking, you know, but you got to show the other side. And now, like again, this could be a storyline of you know, like he hits rock bottom and a story of redemption. He comes through it all to finally win the championship at the end. I don't know, but it's the journey. The journey is going to be so good. Finally, I am so relieved that this is finally over. These guys are separate. They're no longer tag team champions, and the story can breathe and progress. That's all I've wanted, and I had to wait. God damn you, COVID. I'm so pissed. I could have had this months ago, you bastard. But it's finally here, and you know what? I'm thankful, and I can't.
I just woke up. This really didn't happen yet, actually.
Yeah, right? It was all a dream.
No, but this is still the pre-show from the other night, by the way.
Yeah, But I'm excited for Wednesday. It's like, what is going to happen with Paige on Wednesday? Like, this is how you tell those stories, man, because you don't always have to leave them on a cliffhanger. We had some closure there to an extent, but there's still more story to be told. You don't have to leave me on the edge. Give me enough. Trust me, I'll come back. And this is how you get me back.
Moving on, we had Jericho versus Orange Cassidy in the Mimosa Mayhem match. So speaking of hokiness, this match had a little bit of it, hence the gimmick of the match. But we see Cassidy win with the Superman punch. Jericho takes a swim. Did I not call this last week?
Yep.
We knew Jericho was taking a swim. That was the obvious.
Yeah, that was
because I'd rather see Jericho swim than Orange Cassidy because it'd be more funnier. See Jericho swim. I'd be more entertained. Yeah. So we knew Jericho was taking a swim. But Orange Cassidy would win here. What do you guys think?
I liked it. It's tough because knowing what Jericho has brought to the wrestling business with the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then you have this, it was better than I expected. And I'm going to be honest, I had very low expectations. And I am as big of an Orange Cassidy fan as you can find. I love him. I think his character is great. For him to have that character and build off of basically doing nothing, I think it's almost impressive that he's gotten it over. Overall, it wasn't the worst match. I think there was a couple of spots where it's just like, okay, they're just doing this just to, pass the time or, use the weapons around. We saw the dinner plate and he threw the table at him. It was nothing special. I mean, for a gimmick match, it was better than expected. The right man won. We talked about Jericho was going to take the bath. I honestly thought that Jericho was going to win and then take the bath. I thought Best Friends might have gotten involved at the end. Maybe we see a little bit of the Inner Circle too. But overall, nothing special. I enjoyed it. I was entertained throughout the entire thing, but I can't say that it was, anything special.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. You know me, and I'm a huge Jericho fan, but I know I in no way, shape, or form cared about this match. I didn't. I was not excited. There was so much potential for any other type of match. This was just pure sports entertainment, and I was pissed. I did not like it. This was like my green eggs and ham, except with like a unhappy ending. All right, you gave me the goddamn green eggs, and they sucked. All right, and you gave me the green ham, and it tasted terrible because it was rotten, and this was a rotten idea. I'm sorry. That's how I feel about it. There was a potential to have we'll use that word, wrestling match. I wanted a wrestling match. At the end of the day, that's why I paid $50 to watch wrestling, not sports entertainment. And this is exactly what that was. This was sports entertainment. We all knew Jericho was going to take a bath. I picked him to win. I was wrong. At the end of the day, I didn't care. This left me apathetic. It left me just next, please, next.
I think this kind of fell a little flat. Don't you think, Randy?
Can I tell you something? When they first did the Jericho Cassidy feud, the way they did it, I was intrigued and interested. When he lost the first time against Jericho, and they lost me with the orange juice
mimosa.
No. When M and I were both sitting there, and they had the orange juice fall on Jericho, and then he held up an Orange Cassidy towel. I'm like, oh god, I thought that was the other channel. That's what it felt like. That's what it honestly felt like. I wasn't really excited to have that feud continue. I think having Cassidy and Jericho do some little comedy things with Cassidy, less is more. And to say that Jericho has catapulted Cassidy to that next level, it's not true. I said this before, and I'll say this again. Without the belt on Jericho, the Jericho and the Inner Circle feel not as important part of Dynamite as it once was. And I think the company was actually running a little smoother. Again, pandemic not included there. But when Jericho was the champion, I just felt like the chase of beating Jericho is a lot better than the chase of trying to beat Moxley right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. I 100% agree there for sure. Besides, the Jericho title run, in my opinion, was much more fun. I'm not gonna
It
lie
was
about
fun.
that.
Well, we also talked about,
And Jericho's your biggest star right now.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about with Moxley, we all know Lance Archer isn't going to take the title off of him. It's kind of like you have to build up somebody. And with M mentioned before, with when Moxley fought Jericho, you didn't know what was going to happen. Jericho could have retained and people would have been completely fine with it. But now that you have Moxley, it's like you can tell that there's a different vibe between the two champions.
And not only that, but I also want to throw one other thing in there. One of the things that I don't say made WCW or the NWA great back in the late 80s, early 90s, but when Ric Flair wasn't world champion, he was still in the hunt and he still was in it around there somewhere. That's where I feel like they should be doing with Jericho. Jericho's like one of their most interesting characters. He can help get people over, but also keeping in mind he's in his late 40s and he's wrestling like someone who's looking like someone who's in his late 40s right now. He doesn't have a lot of great matches left in him. He's already talking about transitioning over in the commentary. So my question to me is, okay, let's transition. Who's going to be your next star? Who's going to be your next big heel to help carry the company? MJF could be that guy. Again, Tommy, I have to agree with you 110%. You need to build up a heel for maybe like up until like next year. I wishing they never, Em and I had this conversation. I wish they would never have given Mr. Brody Lee a title match so quickly because he could be that guy. He could be that guy with the Dark Order, being the guy who takes that AEW championship and have the Dark Order surround that belt. So if you want to get to the Dark Order and get to that championship, you have to take through all those guys.
Yeah, here's the problem. We're gonna talk about the AEW title match in just 1 second. There's been a bunch of stop and go. There's been stop and go.
Too much.
Brody Lee, and then boom, next guy. Brian Cage, next guy. Now we have MJF. Now we're going to talk about the AEW World Title match, Moxley versus MJF. Have we seen Moxley retain the title? So if I were them, I would keep the Moxley MJF program going, have MJF continue his campaign. Hey, listen, run it along with what's going on in current news. Have him run a campaign, continue to stay on the campaign trail till November and give MJF a shot at the title. What do you think? Because I think come November, it's about time for Moxley to lose that title. You just got to have the right opponent for him.
But they're not going to take it off him, and that's
No, not yet.
I don't see them taking it off of him until fans, at least more fans come back. I don't know how close we are, or when we're even going to come close to getting full fans or have a full attendance. But I like MJF. I picked him to win the match. I've talked really highly of him. I think his promo work is great. I think he really proved that he can go in this match. I mean, the blood spot where he was pouring blood out of his face was great.
That was awesome. That was a good visual.
Red equals green, baby. Red equals green.
Exactly. Red equals green. I just don't know where they go with this. If there was a time for him to take the belt, it would have been last night.
There.
Yeah. And he was hot. The promos were great. I mean, the campaign thing is great, but now what is he going to do? He lost. Are you just going to continue with, I get what you're saying with the campaign, kind of make it more current with everything that's going on in the world. But he lost. I mean, what is he going to do now? Is he just going to be like, oh, I can't beat you and you can't use, yes, he ended up using the paradigm shift when the ref's back was turned, but throughout the match, he couldn't use it. We saw Moxley, go for it and then know that the ref was saying, hey, you know what happens if you do this, and he didn't go for it. I don't know why, if there was a time for them to give it to MJF, why they didn't do it here. Like I said earlier in the show, with Archer winning, it almost predicted who was going to win the main event, because you're not going to, you just don't see heel versus heel matches a lot, especially for something as major as a title as they've built up the AEW World Heavyweight Championship to be. So I thought it was great. I really enjoyed MJF here. I thought he was almost made in this match, being able to show that he can go and have a good match, but not the choice I would have gone with. I would have chosen MJF here.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing is
Well,
that
the way they set it up, they're going to continue this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Do you
This program isn't over.
I honestly hope that it is. It's time to move on. I don't. That's one of the things that I don't know. AEW does. I'm not sure if they do it well or it's just irritating. But sometimes they need to separate these guys. It's like the one thing I hated about the previous company was that, okay, me and Randy are feuding. We're going to feud for a month. Okay. Now we're going to feud for another month. Okay. We're going to feud for 2 more months before we get somewhat of a payoff. And then half that time, they just forget about it and nothing happens anyway. So it's like, you know what? We had closure. He lost. Move on. It's fine. It was especially the rivalry wasn't even a personal rivalry. It was for the belt. Well, he didn't win it. Now it's time for someone else to challenge it. Who will challenge MJF, or what rivalry will he be given? I don't know. I don't know where he goes from here. But I don't think that it should continue because it just wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Archer is already the number 1 contender. As much as I don't want him to be the guy that faces Moxley at the pay-per-view, I don't see it being anything other than that. But I mean, the match was good. It was entertaining. It was hard hitting, and like Randy said, man, the watch MJF bleed like that, always conscious images of Stone Cold bleeding the same way. It's like you as a fan, you'll always respect that. And it was, the ending was a little hokey, but still it got a chuckle from me. I had no problems with it. It was exactly what I expected. But we knew who was going to win. There was just no way. What would I say? A snowball's chance in hell that Moxley was going to drop it last night. There wasn't any chance.
Well, we see Wardlow. He throws the ring, MJF's ring, into the ring towards MJF. The ref gets distracted by Wardlow. Moxley hits the paradigm shift, as we talked about already, from behind as the ref was distracted to get the win. Now, Randy, my question for you is there a little friction between Wardlow and MJF come Wednesday? Do we see a slow burn towards a feud there?
Well, yeah, they even on Twitter today, someone was asking MJF about it, and he said F Warlord. F, he's already going. He said he was cheated, blah blah blah. Again, if you're working towards Archer for full gear, then they have to transition away from MJF to Moxley. MJF is already on Twitter sitting there saying he got cheated, this and that. I still think this feud has legs to it, because you can say that he got cheated. He can say I went to the AEW rules committee and I got cheated. This was in the contract and he did it anyway. There's so much you can go with. Again, there's more to it you can go. But there was a whole bunch, just like MJF and Cody, that just got dropped immediately. Their transitions, getting out of storylines sometimes sucks, and that's one of the things that they have a hard time with. Tony Khan's getting better with that. Tommy listened to the call. Tony Khan is getting better of transitioning from story to story with certain guys. I just feel that MJF has a lot of legs as a heel, and I think eventually he will get there. I think he's going to feud with Wardlow. I don't think Wardlow has enough experience, and I'm not sure if MJF is a guy who can carry an inexperienced babyface right now. As good as he is in the ring, I'm not sure if he can carry somebody like that. And that's one of the. I think that maybe they'll do a slow burn thing like M's favorite, Shawn and Diesel, where they did a little tease at the Rumble, and by the time they got to Survivor Series that year, then they had to split. I think there needs to be a long time frame. Don't give me he threw the ring into the ring, and then 2 weeks later, I'm gonna get that Wardlow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
MJF is mistreating me for 6 months. It's like I don't think it should be that quick. I think
You think Wardlow should screw up a couple more MJ matches over the next few pay-per-views?
I definitely think he should Colt Cabana in it.
That's
Yeah,
kind of like what you alluded to with Shawn Michaels accidentally kicking Diesel at SummerSlam. He did it at Survivor Series.
Accidentally.
Yeah, I'll throw this in
get a
here.
Diesel reference in. I don't know why.
I'll throw this in here. Honestly, I was thinking about it after he did our show. I think Wardlow would have been a really good choice for that Casino Battle Royale. Yes, he's not the most experienced in the ring, and we've seen that. But I feel like his trajectory in AEW is almost the same as Lance Archer. We see the match with the TNT title, and then it kind of just, he goes with MJF, and he kind of goes away. But think about it. If MJF goes into that match knowing that Wardlow has the number one contendership, that eats at him. He doesn't want anybody to take away his title, and he's got his own partner, knowing that he's got a chance later in, whether it's later in the year or next week or whatever. I think that, and then you build to that, Wardlow MJF dynamic. Overall, I don't have a problem with Moxley winning, but like we've talked about, who takes the title off of him? How long, you got to build to something. Somebody's got to be this monster heel or somebody who can take the title off of him. And I don't see it being Archer. I don't see it being Brian Cage. We heard Tony Khan talk about some surprises coming on Wednesday. Maybe it's somebody new, maybe it's some free agent that we're not thinking about. I don't know, but I thought this match was really good for the time it was given. And, like we said, red equals green. So good for MJF for having a really stellar match, coming up and showing what he can do in the ring.
And it doesn't, like, to me as a viewer, it doesn't seem like they have a long-term plan as to where they're trying to get to as far as a program where Jon Moxley would defend his title and lose it.
I think they had, because from what I understood, that they had a year's worth of storylines written out. But again, COVID kind of came in and Godzilla'd it. So, I used that as just look at Randy like shaking his head. But no, it's the truth. A lot of things were ripped up because of this whole pandemic. So where do they go now? I think they're scrambling a little bit. They'll right the ship, but hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. But that being said, man, I'm just really excited for Wednesday. Like, I cannot contain this excitement. I'm a little tired, I must admit, but Wednesday has me with goosebumps, man. I'm really bursting with anticipation.
You're so excited and you can't hide it?
Yes. I'm going to start singing that at any moment.
So it looks like Moxley, they're going to go towards Archer. They can, depending on when they plan that match, they can easily have congruent storylines with MJF continuing to campaign and moan and complain about his finish and wanting a future rematch, or we can see MJF segue into further programming with dissension with Wardlow, which I would think would probably be a little bit of a slow burn there. Well, gentlemen, it is almost midnight. For those of you that are watching, it is almost 12 a.m. Monday morning. That wraps up episode 37. We are now in week 20. How about that? 20 weeks.
Woo!
We are approaching soon.
Happy Labor Day!
I missed it, so I'll take it to myself.
I got you, brother.
We are approaching the, and I did it all wrong. We are approaching the half a year mark, just about. Unbelievable. But for those of you watching, make sure you guys are subscribed. And know that we're also on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. If you can't watch our YouTube video during the week, make sure you share with your friends. Make sure you're sharing this. We should see subscriptions going up every single day. Make sure you're getting the word out. And tell your friends that we are here to review shows each and every single week. Tommy from Backsports Page, Randy from Backsports Page, thank you so much. M from Level 1 Games, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. And that wraps up tonight's show. There will be no WWE talk this week. Maybe an AEW show. We will see. Otherwise, I will be back on next week. And gentlemen, I will talk to you guys soon.